you can see on our website when you go to aeionline.com. Then we have the writerslifeline.com, which is a company that kind of the slogan is we bring your craft and technique to the level of your ambition and vision. And it's a company that mentors writers and edits their work on one hand, or ghost writes for them on the other. We ghost wrote books by Governor Jesse Ventura, for example, I Ain't Got Time to Bleed. And the third company is the newest one. It's called Story Merchant, of which these other companies are more or less subdivisions now. And the Story Merchant is a coaching company that works where I work one-on-one with writers to bring their careers to the next step, especially in a time like today that is so rapidly changing that writers are often disoriented and thinking, what do I do next? Well, that's the whole purpose of Story Merchant coaching at storymerchant.com. And we recently launched Story Merchant Books, which is an incubator for new voices and for mid-career voices so that people can sort of prove the value of their books on the internet to see whether they then want to go make the transition to traditional publishing or whether they want to just stay on their own, publishing on the internet, which for a lot of writers has become a very lucrative enterprise already.
Now, you've seen and you've worked with a lot of books. Somebody comes to you and says, Ken, I want to be successful. What do you tell them?
Well, first of all, they need to join the crowd because, of course, many people want to be successful. There's a line, around the block, actually a very big block that would be. And if you live in Southern California, it's even longer line, or in New York, it's even longer line than it is in Des Moines or Atlanta and so on. But everywhere in the world, there are storytellers who want to break in. The problem is that often they have no idea what the professional bar is that they have to live up to. And our job is to educate them and to help them get to the point of professionalism where they are commercially ready for prime time, as we jokingly say, because many of them are simply not ready for prime time. They can know how to tell a story, but they don't know how to tell it on paper in a way that is recognized as a professional story. And that's our job, is to help them get to that point and then to help them get out into the world the right way, the most expeditious way, because a lot of people don't feel like they want to take the next 50 years to do it. And so we try to figure out what is the quickest route from here to there, and be realistic about the world and not just live with magic thinking, which a lot of new writers do. And so that's kind of why we developed these three services, so we could help people at all levels get their information stories out into the world in the best way possible.
And do you think that, I know you're working a lot with ebooks. Do you think that ebooks are just, do you think that is the way or the best way for many authors?
I think that for authors who are not household words, and I mean that literally, if I named a name and you said, oh yeah, I think I know that, then that's not a household word. Mm-hmm. A name that is a household word is one, a name like Katie Couric, that everyone's going to react to. And if you're not a household word, then I think the internet is almost surely going to be your best launching pad. First of all, it's the one that's most under your control. You'll be able to keep your hands on your own destiny, the wheel of your own destiny, instead of turning it over to someone who's maybe not having your best interest at heart, or who maybe gets bored with working with your project. This way, you're really hands-on from the beginning. You can prove your market, and if you prove it, then you'll be calling shots. If you don't prove it, then you'll have taught yourself a lesson. Maybe I actually didn't have a market, or maybe I need to do more to build my platform so that my market is reachable, and I can prove my own point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there are so many authors out there trying to make a household name for themselves, and they want to become a bestseller, right? How many bestsellers? I don't know if you know the number, but how many bestsellers do you think that you've worked with over the years?
Oh, probably a couple of dozen at this point, 20 to 30, and not counting the spin-offs that each of them might have. But over the years, I mean, we're about to launch another one that'll be excerpted in People magazine on March 28th and released April 4th, which is Clint Hill and Lisa McCubbin's Mrs. Kennedy and Me.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting book about the man who spent more time with Mrs. Kennedy than her own husband did during her years in the White House and after, which is Clint Hill. And we're very excited about that. Kind of the predecessor book that Lisa McCubbin also co-wrote was Jerry Blaine's book, The Kennedy Detail, which you yourself were involved in helping promote, and which was the New York Times bestseller last year. So, and was made into a Discovery Emmy Award nominated Discovery movie as well. So we're hoping to have the same kind of excitement around Mrs. Kennedy and Me.
Well, and certainly because we toured with Clint Hill somewhat, and he is an extraordinary individual and very articulate and just really, really good on his feet. And to that end, you know, an author really has to be a package in order to get, you know, they want to get out in front of a crowd and they want to, you know, do this and that to promote their book. I mean, they can't really operate in a vacuum, right?
Well, that's the whole thing. It's in order for you to become a successful writer, you're going to have to sell your books. Mm-hmm. That means you have to have a relationship with your marketplace, with your audience, with your reader, and that's essential. Mm-hmm. One of my best-selling authors actually drove around the country. I think he went to 17 states with the back seat filled with single-stem roses. He went to every bookstore that he came across on his route and went in and gave the manager a single-stem rose and showed them a copy of his book, which was called The Last Valentine, which we made 2 years ago into a movie called The Lost Valentine with Betty White, mm-hmm. and just won a humanitarian award for that. And he built that up to the point where he had 6 bestsellers because the bookstore owners remembered him and, you know, welcomed him on his future books. And that's really a necessary part if you're going to deal with traditional publishing. The beauty about the internet is that you don't have to get in your car and drive all over the place. You can do it all from the comfort of your desk, and that's an amazing advantage to the writer that the writer hasn't had probably since the very beginning of storytelling. You know, it's the equivalent of the campfire, your captive audience at the campfire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is very true. What does it take in this climate, in a climate that is so saturated with books and stories and news and all these things coming at us, what does it really take now for an author to be a bestseller?
It takes visibility. I mean, the number one thing it takes is awareness. Not your awareness. You can have all the awareness in the world and it won't really help you. The audience's awareness, the marketplace's awareness. So whatever you can do to increase that awareness is going to be the key to your being a bestseller. So obviously your subject matter needs to be a need for your audience. The bigger the need, the wider your audience, and that's all great. That has to happen. But on top of that, you have to make them aware of what you've got. And that is the most challenging part of publishing today is how do I get my awareness to a level where people will start buying my book? And we use all kinds of techniques. We have what's called a white glove relationship with Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, and in both cases, the title that we bring into them, they will merchandise and promote it. And one of the many ways they'll do that is to allow you to give it away free for a few days. And that may sound counterintuitive, but the truth is I'm watching the book we launched a couple of days ago, and I see every day that the numbers are increasing as we gave it away free for 3 days. And that means it's rising on the list, on the Amazon list. And that's very exciting because when the free day promotion is over with, then it will already be higher on the list than it was, you know, before it started, and it'll have a kind of a leg up that the writer couldn't have gotten any other way. So we're very excited about these various techniques for boosting awareness on the internet.
And Amazon has really been, I mean, they've become somewhat of a game changer in publishing, and you've been in publishing for a long time. What do you think, how do you think Amazon is going to change New York publishing?
Well, it's not it's not really how they're going to change it. It is already changed. Last year, for the first time, more ebooks were sold than traditional books. And one of the top publishers in the traditional publishing world went to join and become the head of Amazon Publishing. And I won't mention who he is. There's still some people who are very upset with him for leaving traditional publishing. But he no longer, could say that he saw it as the wave of the future. It is already the present wave. One of my favorite New Yorker cartoons, and I'm so glad there still is a New Yorker, is a couple of teenagers standing at a library table staring at a book. And one of them is looking at the other and says, "Do you have any idea how it starts?" And we're developing a movie right now called Totally Tabloid. And one of the investors called me one day and said, "My 14-year-old daughter is reading it. She's loving the movie. She just has one question, and I thought you should know about the question. What is a tabloid?" In her life, this 14-year-old girl in Montreal never saw a tabloid, never heard the word, never has read a newspaper. And so the world of publishing is changing. Is there room for traditional books? Yes, there's still more than ever published, and they're selling better than ever. But ebooks are selling more than traditional books for the first time. And the people who swore, including myself, that I would never use an iPad or a Kindle, now use them every day. And honestly, I'm starting to look a little more suspiciously at the traditional books. As much as I love holding them in my hands, I don't mind reading them on Kindle, especially if I'm going on a long airplane trip and I don't want to lug 40 pounds of weight with me.
Yeah.
I can take, I can take 500 books with me in a single iPad.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, if somebody wants to work with you, how do you work with authors? An author contacts you, where do you start?
Well, we start by one-on-one consulting. Now, usually people sign up for anywhere from 1 to 3 hours to begin with, and the sessions are half an hour. And during the first 1 or 2 sessions, you're basically downloading to me what your vision is, what your, where you are in your career, in your life, with your project, and giving me an overview of what all this is. I'll ask questions to make it clear to me. And then we start going toward a strategy, like what is the best strategy to get you going in the direction you want to go. And then we start converting the strategy into tactics. What should be your next steps? And you can report to me at our session next week that you've accomplished this step, while I'm doing some other things that can help you make connections. I connect writers with publicists, as you know, and also with agents, with publishers, all the different things that can be done with experience, and I've had 30 years experience. So I try to just use all of that to help a writer launch his project to the level where he would like to see it launched, but also to do it in a way that doesn't waste 5 or 6 years of his time, barking up the wrong trees and going down blind alleys.
Yeah, and I think it's really valuable. I mean, and one of the reasons I wanted to chat with you today is because I do think that, authors can spend a lot of years and a lot of time taking the wrong path, going down the wrong path, knocking on the wrong doors, and you can sort of, maybe shortcut that to a great degree by making the connections. And also, I think that it's important for an author to have another set of eyes that can be really objective, that knows what sells and what doesn't, to look at a book. I mean, would you, because a lot of authors have their friends and family and go, well, my mother loves this book. Mom's generally not a good, I mean, she's a great fan, but she's not a good...
Yeah, she better love it. I mean, that's what mothers are for, right?
Right.
If you hand your book to a family member and you expect anything back, then I love your book, go for it. And then you've just, you've handed it to the wrong family member. Yeah, you need an objective eye unless you want to live in a world of magic thinking. That's exactly what I was talking about earlier, which is that writers do spend years going down the wrong paths, and I know that because I've done that myself. And my job is to save that learning curve for you and to simply use my experience to shorten your learning curve. That's the whole goal of the Story Merchant Companies. We have a thing on the writerslifeline.com that's called the Project Launch Analysis, where for a flat fee for a screenplay, a book of nonfiction or fiction, depending on the length, the fees vary, etc., we give you back a very detailed report about the contents of your book, what needs to be fixed in those contents, if anything, and what is the marketability of your book. And if there's not marketability, we tell you that too, because our job is to simply help you get to your best path forward and not allow you to go down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And we develop all these different services from the experience of what writers need. I was a professor for 20 years before I became a manager, producer, and I've also been the author of 17 books of my own. And so I kind of see it from a long, perspective of all the different parts of the world of the literary marketplace, as well as from the perspective of helping the writers, because my whole life's been helping writers one way or the other.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the all-important, because we get a lot of authors who come to us and say, I want my book to be a movie. You can also talk to authors about, well, here are the steps, because you generally don't go from point A to point B fairly quickly. It takes a long time to get a book into a movie, does it not?
Yeah, I mean, I give a webinar, in fact, called how to make your novel into a movie, and also how to write your novel as a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Because even better than like taking a finished novel and trying to turn it into a movie is planning your novel before you even start writing it,
Mm-hmm.
so that it has the potential of being a movie. So many writers don't do that, and as a result, their novels are extremely difficult to make into movies. But
Right.
once you learn the secrets of what movie makers need, then you can plan that into your novels. I mean, so many successful writers like Michael Crichton, Sidney Sheldon, et cetera, know how to do that, and so many of their books get made into movies because they were written with a dramatic structure in mind that works for movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Ken, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be on the call, and we may want to do a separate session just on turning your book into a movie, because we get, boy, I tell you, if I get 100 questions that a month, it's a slow month. We get asked that a lot. You can reach Ken at storymerchant.com. Go to the website. There's tons of information. Your contact information is on that site, and authors can reach out to you and schedule a time to chat.
Well, thank you so much, Penny, and wherever you are out there in your career, I wish you the very best of luck, and I only have one rule, which is to persist. Don't let anything deter you. Just, this doesn't work, try something else. Never give up, never give up, never give up.
Well, you are a phenomenal cheerleader, and that's part of the reason why I was so excited to interview you, because you have helped so many authors. And thank you so much for spending the time today. I really appreciate it. And good luck with the next Clint Hill book. He's an extraordinary author with a fantastic story to tell.
Thank you so much, Penny. It was great to see you again, and I look forward to the next time.
Great to see you again, too. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.